And for more on the impact of these meetings on the U.S.-China relations, I spoke earlier to Charles Freeman. He's international principal at Forbes-Tate, a public policy consulting firm here in Washington. He's also a former assistant U.S. trade representative for China affairs.
You can't expect too much to get done because no one wants to play their cards now and when the big cards have to be played in September. But in many respects, these things are more about how things are said rather than what is said at the table. And the atmospherics and the opportunity to have a conversation with your counterpart in a large group setting is very important to the relationship.
What do both countries want to get out of this dialogue, and what issues will they not agree on or just simply table for the next time?
There are some pretty substantial issues that the United States cares a lot about that China is reluctant to give, and I think the same thing is true from the Chinese perspective. So issues like genuine resolution to conflicts in the South China Sea, concerns about cybersecurity, some concerns about some economic and trade practices, and a sense from the Chinese side that the U.S. is closed to a lot of their investment. These are issues that are not going to get resolved at the table, although it's good to have them aired and talked about.
Because there has been a lot of buzz about certain issues, as you mentioned, the South China Sea, that people hope to see discussed or want to see discussed, but in all actuality, it's not one of the big parts of this relationship that these two countries feel like they need to resolve right now.
Well, I mean, China feels that, this is an area that the United States is butting into. And the United States feels that there is certain practices on the Chinese side that are more assertive, more aggressive than they need to be. And the two sides are still feeling each other out and figuring out if they can come to some agreement. China would prefer that the U.S. not be a part of the broader discussions with its neighbors in the region. The United States traditionally has had that role, so it'll be difficult for the two sides to come to agreement, but there certainly is a possibility longer term.
Some big issues, though, that the U.S. and China have found great cooperation in. Climate change is something that's been gaining a lot of momentum, announcing 6 more eco-partnerships as recently as today. Marine life and wildlife also on the agenda. What's your take on that? Is this just continuing the push forward to the climate change meeting in Paris this December?
I think that's a big part of it. The U.S. and China are obviously very big players in Paris, and the extent to which the U.S. and China can come to some bilateral agreement on things that they can do either separately or jointly on climate is really important. But part of this is just an exercise in finding areas of cooperation, regardless of where that is. And the fact that we can cooperate on climate is huge. It's absolutely huge. Oceans and other things, that's kind of a yes and, but the climate issue is absolutely critical.
What will you be watching for as this goes on, and what do you hope to see once it's all over?
I think it's more the atmospheric surrounding things. Generally, what comes out after these discussions is a long list of deliverables or achievements. Those tend to sometimes be more reiterations of things that have already happened and less new things. It's more about the extent to which the two sides have a positive, forward-looking agenda as we run into September.
Body language? Just when you say atmospheric, what do you mean by that?
Body language is very important. How the two sides communicate, whether there is a discussion that emphasizes cooperation or a discussion that emphasizes a separation of the two opinions and positions.